Welcome to Wicked Radio. This is best-selling author John M. Davis. It's officially hit the fan, folks. I'm talking about the coronavirus, the Wuhan virus, whatever they're calling it these days. It has hit the fan, officially a pandemic. We're going to be talking about what it means to shelter in place and how you go about doing that now that this thing is lights out on fire, basically. Before we get into that, I wanted to offer a quick response to my boy MD Creekmore over there. MD Creekmore, you folks check him out on YouTube. Excellent channel for prepping. The dude knows what he's talking about. Great prepper. Offers tons of great advice. But yesterday, he posted a video, and I think, and this is my opinion, guys. This is my opinion. I'm entitled to it, right? I think he gave some bad advice, and I told him that over on his channel, and I told him I was going to address it here on Wicked Radio. He didn't seem to like it too much, but I'm going to address it nonetheless. MD Creekmore basically said he's tired of hearing about the coronavirus and all of the hysteria, and he is correct. You do have some people who still have their head in the sand, and they don't want to believe that this is really going to happen. And then you have some people who are gloom and doom, and this is going to be the end of the world as we know it. MD Creekmore, again, in my opinion, kind of played this down a little bit. He said it's going to fall somewhere in between, that our lives are going to be affected and we're going to have, make some changes along the way, but overall it's not nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. And again, I think that's bad advice. I just wanted to mention that here today on the podcast. For me personally, and I told him this yesterday, it's much better to be over-prepared, like prepare for the absolute worst case scenario. You don't want to stress as you're doing it. You don't want it to take over your life, basically. But you need to be prepared. And so, me personally, I prefer to over-prepare. And then, if I'm wrong and it's not nearly as bad as I'm making it out to be, for example, no harm, no foul. You just have a bunch of supplies on hand that eventually you're going to use anyway, right? You're eventually going to get around to using the rubbing alcohol and the over-the-counter medicine and the beans and rice. Not a big deal, right? And the bottled water. But if I'm right and MD Creekmore's wrong, people could potentially die because they're not prepared. And so I wanted to make a case today for why I think it's going to get really bad, right? He said he's tired of people overusing the term, it's hit the fan, basically. But I am going to say that it's already hit the fan, bro. It has already hit the fan. The government, I think, has been aware of this for a couple of weeks. They did not want to panic. They didn't want widespread panic running throughout the country, but they knew it was coming. They knew it was going to be classified as a pandemic, which it now has been. Here's my case for why this is going to get really bad. All right? I don't think that you folks out there in YouTube land, need to worry so much about catching the infection, okay, and dying from the infection. The infection is not your biggest issue. And again, MD Creekmore, he's offering up statistics on how the death rate is relatively low, etc. All right. But the thing is, I'm not just some random guy who decided to prep one day. I've studied civilizations, and I've said this on previous podcasts. I've studied it, not at my local library. You know what I'm saying? I've had to do capstone seminars in college on civilizations, what brought civilizations down, the world events throughout history, if you will. The Spanish flu. I keep bringing it up because I think it's very comparable to the Wuhan virus, Spanish flu. In fact, I think this has the potential to be even worse. And the Spanish flu killed roughly 50 million people. And I think this has the potential to be worse. And I know a lot of people are going to argue with that, but let me explain why. All right. The average American is not nearly as tough as they were in the early 1900s. I'm not talking about, the body and the immune system, none of that. I'm saying in the early 1900s, America was predominantly pioneers, homesteaders, if you will. And now in 2020, people are used to cell phones and instant gratification, and you send a pizza emoji and they deliver the pizza. Things like Uber and Grubhub and things. A vast majority of people are not prepared for what is getting ready to happen. And I truly believe that. And this is why I'm saying that it's hit the fan. This is why I'm saying it's much more serious than I think my boy MD Creekmore. Mad respect for the man, but I think it's a lot more serious than he is broadcasting on his own channel. And here, let me give you a few reasons why I think it's going to be much more severe than even the Spanish flu was. Okay, first of all, our healthcare system. We have the best healthcare in the world. Yes, we do, here in the United States. However, before the Wuhan virus, coronavirus, we were already at a shortage of doctors. There was already a shortage of doctors here in this country. Okay? There was already a shortage of medical staff, nurses, RNs, LPNs. So if the infection rate holds steady, and it looks actually like it's climbing, but even if it stops climbing and it just holds steady where it's at, our hospitals are going to be completely overwhelmed within the next few weeks. People start to get infected, right? They go to the hospital to get tested. If they test positive, they're in the hospital. So what I'm saying is, within the next few weeks, I expect the hospitals are going to be completely overwhelmed. There's going to be nowhere for these people to go. We're not set up for this. We don't have the staff. You can build 100 brand new hospitals. You know what I'm saying? But unless you have the people to staff it, it's not really going to matter. And so I think we're going to reach a point where people are going to start being turned away from the hospital. Let's say you are having symptoms of, for example, stroke, and you get to the hospital and they have nothing for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Or let's say you have some sort of an infection or an injury. What are they going to do? They have nowhere to put you. They have no one to see you. And so the hospitals, I think, are going to have to start making hard choices. Someone comes in with the Wuhan virus and they're over 60. Do they then spend the resources to help that individual, or do they default to helping someone who is younger, in better shape, whatever the case? These are hard choices that I think are going to have to be made within the next few weeks. And that's not good. On top of this, the stock market is being gutted right now, because the stock market, for those of you who don't know, I don't play the stock market, but I do know a little bit about it. The stock market revolves on several industries. For example, the trade industry, the oil industry, the vacation industry. Think about this for a moment, okay? Economically speaking, the stock market is tanking right now because no one's really vacationing. No one's filling up the old car 4 times and driving to Disneyland. And they're certainly not getting on airplanes and flying to Disneyland. So not only is this bad for the oil industry, which is why we've seen hundreds and even thousands of points dropping in the last week. In the last week, we've seen a dip of thousands of points on the stock market. Everything's tied into the stock market. When the stock market suffers, the whole economy begins to suffer. Even if you don't play the stock market, okay? It affects everything. That's why when there's a panic, you know what I'm saying? The stock market takes a hit. It's all intertwined. It's spider-webbed together. And I suspect part of the reason they didn't call this a pandemic sooner is they did not want the stock market to crash. Yesterday, Trump gave a, well, first of all, yesterday morning, it was considered officially a pandemic. And then last night, Trump gave a address, and he's banning travel to and from Europe. Just Europe for now. Other countries are coming. So not only do stocks nosedive because of the oil industry, but now let's look at the vacation industry. Okay, let's look at the places that rely on tourism to make money. What's going to happen to someone who works at a 5-star hotel at a vacation resort that now has next to nobody coming? Well, they're not going to have a job, or they're going to be laid off, or they're going to be furloughed, whatever the case may be. Now, everybody's saying work from home, work from home. What are you going to do? Our number one employer in the United States is Walmart, sadly. What are these folks going to do when the products on the shelves run out? You think Walmart's just going to pay them to come in and dilly-dally? No, they're not going to do that. What are people who are working 1 or 2 fast food jobs to make a living going to do when people are no longer eating out? You see, the whole thing with sheltering in place is you're not out spending money. And if you're not out spending money, the businesses are not making money. Therefore, they cannot employ anyone. What are people going to do at that point? The economy is about to crash. Hard, I might add. The medical industry is about to crash hard. The stock market is crashing hard. So what are we going to do at this point? Right? I've been telling you guys for a couple of weeks now, stock up. Get everything you're going to need for several months. Because believe it or not, you are going to have to shelter in place for several months. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, certainly doesn't mean we're going to have zombies walking around. Right? There's a zombie there on the screen. We don't really have to worry about zombies. And sadly, in many ways, it would be easier if we had to deal with this dude right here on the screen as opposed to what we're going to have to deal with. We're getting ready to deal with the National Guard coming into several states. I believe it's already happening in New York. It's going to happen elsewhere, widespread. And you're going to have to go stand in line if you don't have supplies. And they're going to give you whatever they give you. You don't like what they're giving you that week or whatever? Tough. You're just stuck. You become fully dependent on the government at this point. So for those of you who were beating the drum for socialism, you get to see it firsthand. So it's kind of a learning experience for all of these, 20-year-olds out here that are screaming we need to be socialists, right? You're going to get to see it. I think a majority of you folks who are yelling for socialism, number one, you don't really know how socialism works. And number two, you're probably not prepared for what is coming. There's no ifs. It's a matter of time. It's coming. So you get the hands-on experience in a very short time of standing in a bread line and waiting for someone to hand you whatever they feel like giving you that day. That's pretty much socialism. So yeah, you get to do that. Preppers, on the other hand, we're stocked up, we're ready to go. Sheltering in place. So again, what does sheltering in place look like during the corona and the Wuhan virus? Again, your chances of catching this infection or even dying from the infection are very low, as long as you follow a few simple guidelines. All right, you don't want to be in public places. Okay. Most of your Walmarts and your huge superstores are near interstates. So you want to avoid these places right now like the plague, because you have no idea what you're walking into when you go in there. People from other states all over the place are in there. You don't know if you can catch the virus in there or not. So what sheltering in place will look like for you is, if you're in a rural area, country setting, you are going to be stuck in your house and your yard and on your own private property. Okay, you really don't want to leave. And so this is why I've been putting out videos. This is why I've been encouraging people stock up on bleach so you can purify water. Have a water purification system or collection system in place. Make sure that you have plenty of food. Gonna need food. A newbie mistake that most preppers seem to make, and I noticed this early on when I started prepping, is a large majority of preppers have about a month's worth of food, and then they have 15 guns. And it's not really going to help you, because what you want as a prepper is you want 1 or 2 steady, reliable firearms and plenty of ammunition to go along with them. But what you want to concentrate on is going to be water, food, and medicine. And if you've been listening to the podcasts and the videos that I've put on here on YouTube for the past couple of weeks, you now already have plenty of water, and you know how to purify your own. If you missed those videos, please go check them out. You now have plenty of food, and you know how to store the food in the airtight 5-gallon buckets. And you have plenty of medicine. You're going to want all of the over-the-counter medicine that you can get. You want to think outside the box. Go beyond alcohol and peroxide. That's what everybody rushes in to get, right? Think outside the box. Your Tylenol and ibuprofen, that stuff's going to run out. Antibiotics are going to be history for a while. So go the natural route. I know honey is one natural antibiotic, and you can get certain teas that serve as antibiotics as well. Better than nothing, right? You want to get multivitamins, especially if you have kids. You want to get vitamin C, vitamin A, D. You don't want to be deficient on any kind of vitamins. So stockpile this stuff up, guys, and prepare to hunker down for, I would say, a lot of the college that I attend actually just switched to online only for the next, foreseeable future, maybe the rest of the year. I don't know. The public schools here are strongly considering shutting down for a couple of weeks. But the problem is, this thing's not going to be over in a couple of weeks. I think this thing could be lingering around for a couple of years. That's what we saw with the Spanish flu. That's what the study of history tells me. Spanish flu ran its course in about 2 years. So it's probably not feasible for most people out there who don't prep normally to have 2 years worth of food, 2 years worth of water, 2 years worth of medicine on hand. But you want to shoot for 2 to 3 months. This is going to put you ahead of the crowd. You want to get enough for 2 to 3 months, and then you want to be able to just kind of hang back in your house. The one thing that you want your biggest concern at that point to be cabin fever. If cabin fever is your only concern, you're doing great. But yeah, I mean, weeks are going to turn into months, I think. As far as right now, they're asking most people here in the U.S. to self-quarantine. Eventually, I do see the National Guard imposing a forced quarantine, which is when you really want to have prepping supplies. Now, again, I could be totally wrong. They could come out with a cure tomorrow morning for this stuff, a vaccine that works, and that's game, set, match, right? And then you just have tons of supplies on hand, again, that you're going to go through anyway. It's not like the stuff, you just got to throw it out. You're going to eventually use this stuff, right? But better safe than sorry. That's what I always say when it comes to the prepping. Shelter in place, I said this on the last video, should always be the number one priority, because you don't have to go out into the wilderness and build a shelter, you know what I'm saying, or your bug out location. You have a shelter, if you're sheltering in place in your home, in your apartment, wherever, you already have a roof over your head, right? You probably have extra blankets in the closets. You probably have board games and things to keep the kids entertained. A lot of people will be doing the online gaming and stuff. But here's the thing, every community is different. In my community, when the power is out, and it very well may go out during the Wuhan, when the power goes out, if it's off for several hours, sometimes the water pump station here locally will also go down, and then we have no water. So again, it's different wherever you live. If you're living in an apartment, if you're in an urban area, sheltering in place looks a little different. You're going to have to stay in your apartment. You're going to have to make do with what you got, basically. If you have a balcony, consider that for water collection. Consider that for, if you want to do any kind of gardening. We know how to do a little gardening here at the Ponderosa. We need to get better at it, but we do know how to do a little bit of gardening. We got some going on right here. But we actually have an area where we can do that, and then we have land out back. If you have an apartment, you don't really have that. You're going to have to find a few sunny windows. I mean, it could come down to that, folks. You know what I'm saying? If you have the National Guard coming in, and this is, I'm just throwing the example out. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying it's potentially going to happen down the road. National Guard comes in. They have enough food for 1,000 people, 3,000 people in line. That means 2,000 people are not going to eat that day or that week or whatever. So you must be able to take it into your own hands. You must be able to survive on your own. That's what sheltering in place should look like. You should have plenty of supplies. But again, to break it down, okay, the number one concern, the one that everybody needs plenty of every day is water. You get the bottle, the jugged water, if you can find it. If you can't, you best start looking for bleach, right? You better find ways to go ahead and at home with tap water, fill up as many containers as you can, put them off to the side, whether those are 5-gallon buckets with lids, whether those are empty 1-gallon jugs, things like that, bottles, whatever you can find. It's a good idea to go ahead and get that done. Tap water is better than nothing when you have nothing. Your second, again, should be food. You should be solely looking at water. Do you have enough food for you and your family for the next 2 to 3 months? Do you have enough medicine for the next 2 or 3 months? And again, I'm a prepper. I smoke a pipe. Got a pipe laying right here. I smoke a pipe every now and then. And I actually have a stockpile of tobacco for the pipe. I mean, I'm not doing without anything. I got great books, man. Think about the luxury stuff. People are out here fist fighting over toilet paper. And while it would be nice to have plenty of toilet paper, it's really not worth fist fighting over because you can live without it. You can't live without water. You can't live without food. And in many cases, you can't live without medicine. So focus on those 3 things and then start thinking about your luxury items. Couple of firearms. Again, you don't need 15. If you just want to collect guns, that's fine. But get the other stuff out of the way first. And then when you shelter in place, make sure you can secure the place. Because, again, this can go on for a couple of years. And you don't want 6 months down the road for a group of 8 or 10 people who are starving to death to find out you have supplies and then kick your door in. So there are things that you can do, and maybe I'll do videos on those later on down the road where you can definitely secure your house. And then, of course, that's where the firearms come into play as well. Anyway, this is best-selling author John M. Davis. Thank you guys for the questions. I've gotten a couple of questions about the prepping this week and a little bit of encouragement. If you haven't already done it, please subscribe to the channel. It is a brand new channel on prepping. I do try and interact with all the comments that I get down below here on YouTube. So please keep those coming as well. Like and subscribe. Maybe help spread the word. If you're interested in the books that I write, I've had 3 bestsellers actually. I have over 30 stories in print. The link is right there on the YouTube banner. You can actually find my website there. You can also pick up tactical gear via Amazon over there. And they send the Old Book Commander a few cents for every dollar that you spend. That helps to support the channel. You can also donate via PayPal outright. If you do so, please leave your name in the comment on PayPal when you're donating so I can thank you here live on the podcast. Anyway, God bless you guys. Be a few days before I can get another video up and running, and we'll see what the world looks like then. God bless.